Yeah, can put this one.
Well, welcome everyone to the Sunday service from Bezerra Spiritual Healing. We are a non-denominational practice welcoming all faiths, beliefs, and religions. You're welcome to join us every Sunday at this time. We begin every one of our online services and in-person services with prayer. And today to lead our prayer will be Regina.
Good morning, everyone. Join me in closing your eyes as we lift our hearts and our mind to our beloved Jesus Christ and our Lord, our Heavenly Father. And let us say good morning. Good morning, Father. Dear Father, may you bless us as we come together for this lesson, in this blessed opportunity to hear another moment of the gospel or the Spirit's book. May you bless our understanding, open our heart and our mind to hear and walk away brighter than when we came. May your Spirit encompass each and every one of us and protect us as we open our mind to hear this lesson for today. In your name, Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless the opening of our service. And so be it.
Thank you, Regina. ESH is a member of the United States Spiritist Federation. And as most Spiritist centers throughout the world, we follow the initial writings of the 1850s and 60s of Allan Kardec as the formality of Spiritism in textual form began to take effect. And from the history standpoint, subsequently, the spirits began to manifest themselves when humans were ready to understand, to experience, and to share that knowledge and experience. And we continue that element of Spiritism today with an openness and a reality that humans are not perfect, and we are here striving for perfection. Our meetings on Sunday include a featured speaker, and before I get to that, I just want to give you a sense of, let me try it again, what is available to you. Well, each week, and hopefully you can see that. So starting in the top left, again, this is the Sunday service, and it includes both an educational presentation and subsequently a healing mass, which is a nice, quiet, meditative approach. Every day at 6 p.m. Pacific time, all these times are Pacific time, we have a daily prayer session lasting up to a half hour with an opportunity for anyone to bring forward their requests. And certainly at a time like this, we have requests beyond our own individual needs. You are welcome to join us in those worldly perspectives. Immediately after, on many nights, we go into book studies. And they begin at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. On Sunday nights, we are continuing our study of the messengers. On Tuesday night, we are continuing our study recently begun of the Consoler. On Wednesday nights, we are continuing our study of the book Heaven and Hell. And Thursday nights, Living Spring. And again, you are welcome to join any and all of these. They are open to the public. They last about 1 hour. And not only is it a reading and book study, chapter by chapter, page by page, but it is also delightful interactive dialogue that often takes place with deepening perspectives of what we've just heard. By appointment only, we offer fraternal counseling. Typically, this is done on Wednesday afternoons. But again, if anyone is in need and that schedule does not work, please reach out to us and we'll do our best to find someone qualified to give you assistance as needed. And by invitation only on Monday nights after the prayer is a mediumship focused session where the BSH mediums will both delve into educational principles and then apply them. If you have any people that you would like to pray for physically or spiritually, emotionally, mentally, please drop their names in the chat session and we will add them to this blog. Okay, we now move into the prepared portion of today's meeting, and our speaker will be Teresa Castro. And I read the title and I was intrigued, and now I've forgotten it. It kept by the page. So I'm going to let you do that introduction. But I do want to tell you, that I met Teresa online through Kardec Radio many years ago, and we have subsequently done a variety of things together and are continuing to do so, joining each other's book studies, online sessions from wherever source, etc. She is quite adept at communicating effectively, especially for those of us who are still trying to figure out the essence of spirits.
Yeah.
Teresa, I give this to you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, well, today we are going to continue with our study of the Spirits book from Allan Kardec. And so I was assigned a certain number of questions, and we're going to look at these questions this morning. Well, this I think it's morning for you guys. It's actually afternoon for me. All right. Okay. So the questions are 549 to 557. If you want to get your book and follow along, you're welcome to do so. And it has to do with pacts, occults, occult powers, talisman, and sorcerers. So this seems like we should discuss this around Halloween or something, but here we are. Okay. So a pact, if we just do a general Google search, it's a formal agreement between individuals, signifies a promise to cooperate with certain conditions. And I think we can all accept that. And then we have Allan Kardec gives us his ideas on an allegory or on a pact. And he says it's an allegory, a story that portrays a bad-natured soul sympathizing with equally ignorant spirits. So having these two in mind, the question is, 549, is there any kind of truth to pacts being formed with bad spirits? So this is the question that Kardec poses to the spirits. And I want everyone to write in the chat what you think. Yes, no, maybe, yes and no, whatever you'd like to put in the chat. And since I can't see the chat, I have to ask Mark, our host, to tell us what's coming up. What do people think? Is there any kind of truth to pacts being formed with bad spirits? What do you think? I mean, if you have the book, you can open the book and take a peek. Are we getting anything, Mark? You're on mute.
All I can see is me. Oh, there we go. I'm a no. Charles is a yes. Kiki is, I think there is, conscious or unconscious. Nora is a yes.
Okay, we'll go with it. Thank you. Thank you for participating.
But I read the book.
Oh, you read the book. I was going to say, so listen, The spirits say no, but if you said yes, you're not wrong either, and we'll explain why. So they say no, and why are they saying no? They said because others can be freed by an opposing peel. So just because, you know, Tom and Mary decide they're going to go in cahoots and do something bad to Elizabeth, doesn't mean it's going to happen just because they decide that. Or even if they, you know, connect with a so-called spirit and they're going to help them out, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Why? Because there can be an opposing appeal. What's the opposing appeal? The good spirits. Okay. So we can think of this as someone's guardian, their protector, benefactor spirits, their mentors. And how does this happen? It's by an action of the will. So, you know, even if I'm not aware someone's going to do bad to me or is projecting bad on me, as long as I'm using my will rightly, you know, I don't have that, you know, their ignorant or lower order vibes do not have to have an effect on me. And remember, because the opposing appeal, the good spirits. And so if you said yes, you're not wrong either, because they say this is more like an allegory when we talk about pacts, and that, so yes, there can be this attunement to ignorant spirits. And that's why Kardec describes pact in that way. It's really just one bad spirit attuning with another bad spirit or negative influence. I hate using the word, I shouldn't use the word good and bad, but rather ignorant, low order. So souls delivering themselves over to the low vibratory thoughts that ignorant spirits suggest. So this is why they answer no, but then with their explanation, we can kind of see it's kind of yes. So of course people can go in cahoots together, but just because they decide they want to use their will that way, it doesn't mean they can override God or the divine laws, right? So I think that's what they're asking of us. And I really, after doing all these questions, that was kind of my take home message, because I kind of thought, why did Allan Kardec find these questions so important to ask them? And I think there's many reasons, but I think what I walked away with is these questions are really asking us to think, to discern, to use our reasoning, and also to use what we know, what we have learned in Spiritism. So to bring it like into practice, so to speak. Okay. So then 550.
Teresa, I'm sorry,
Oh, yeah.
sister. Can I just add something in here? Just because I think this topic is extremely important, you know, and I do not mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to share that many studies, or in many of the sessions that we've had in our mediumship meetings, I remember very clearly many spirits saying that they had pacts with others, but as exactly to your point, they just tie themselves into, there is an attunement into something, and sometimes people believe that they have a so-called contract with someone, like a promise to someone, and that is what keep bringing them back into do something bad, and they cannot free themselves. So I think it's extremely important that you reinforce that no, there is not, because God is the one who will be able to free you. And I think that this is just the one thing that I just wanted to call out for us and for those who are listening to us, because even if you feel like you have any type of contract with someone or a promise that you have made or something, but you need to free yourself, God is the one that can override anything, and all it takes is the goodwill and the prayers and the change of our actions and thoughts. Yeah, so just wanted to share that. I don't know why. Just feel like sharing.
Oh, okay, thank you. So we can all finish now.
Yeah.
He just gave us the presentation.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So that's okay. But yes, you're correct. That's spot on. I mean, you know, and that's, I mean, they pretty much tell us in the first question, you know. So why is the spirit telling us no, that there aren't truth to Pacts. And he's saying no, because there are the good spirits and there is that appeal. We can make a decision. It's one thing if we feel that negative energy and then we kind of go with it and join it, but it's exactly right what Kiki had to share with us, that there is always that higher appeal, and they cannot override divine law, natural law. Okay, so what is the meaning of the fantastic fables? These fables center around people selling their souls to Satan in exchange for favors. And Kiki alluded to that as well. And so, again, they're an allegory. So they're a story, and they're used to convey a teaching and a moral through symbolism. They're not literal. And this is what the spirits actually say to us. They say, the problem with us is that we take it literal, and it's not literal. It's a story, and there's symbolism about it. So what they do tell us is that, so this is the Spirit's book explanation of these fables, the meaning behind these fables. And there's so many of them. I mean, there's that one popular one, I can't think of the whole story, but the guy wants to be like a guitar player or a musician, and he makes a pact with the devil so he can get all these skills and learning, to play good music. So there's many, many stories, through several centuries of people doing this. So their explanation is that when we call upon ignorant spirits to help us obtain favors, we rebel against God. So we can see this. This comes from the first commandment: love God above all with your whole mind, your whole body, your whole soul, and above all else. And then closely behind that is love your neighbor as well as yourself. So we see this first thing they say, when we're making connections or affinity with lower order spirits, number one, we are rebelling against God. So to think about that, we're saying, oh, God can't help me through this. I've got to resort to magicians, fortune tellers, psychics. I got to pay somebody to help me. So we renounce our missions and trials. So our incarnatory plan. So this is something that's really, I thought this was interesting when I first read it. I was like, why are they telling us this? And I really think they're reminding us, no one incarnates, no one's mission is to affiliate with evil or ignorant spirits. That is not our mission. It's no one's mission. It is not a part of an incarnatory plan. So I think we really need to, I don't know, I felt like I really needed to swallow that and to really understand what they were telling me here. They say that what happens when we do this, we increase our attachment to matter. So remember, as we study heaven and hell, when people are of lower order, when they're kind of doing shady things, they have more, they're more attached to matter. So this can become a way of suffering, because when we discarnate, the slower our perispirit detaches from the physical body, the more suffering we can experience. So when we are talking with ignorant spirits, low order spirits, we are actually increasing our coarseness, relating more strongly to matter. And this is interesting. They say you establish a pact. They just told us there was no truth to pacts, right? But what they are reminding us about the resonance, the affinity. So, if you're going to take yourself down to that level, you're connecting with it. You're having resonance. You're having the same vibration. And so they say you will reap consequences. And what they're pointing out here is that, you may not see it in this lifetime. And then we have these things, and we should look even at our current life now. We have these things, we don't understand why they're going on, because we don't have the memory of it. And they point out, people could say, well, okay, so what? I'll face it later, But we are in our best, highest self right now in this incarnation so far. So we don't know what next time is going to look like, in terms of what we have to deal with. So it's not to say that we regress. We don't regress. The spirit doesn't regress, but the conditions may make it a little bit more challenging to expiate things we have done from the past. So the point is, when we connect with these low order beings, there is a consequence. Okay. And we just don't, so, we don't know what that is going to look like in terms of how much suffering or what we're going to have to face. So, but they're bringing us this fact. And then they say, you'll be deprived of earthly joys until atonement. And any of us who have read Andre Louis series, we know this. The man kills his brother because he wants the inheritance. And then he can't enjoy the rest of his life because all he has on his mind is the vision of murdering this person. Even when he discarnates, he still has this, fixed idea of, the murder and happening over and over again. So this is what they're talking about. You may think, oh, I stole this guy's wife. Now I'm going to be so happy. We're going to be deprived of these earthly joys. Why? Because we're not really in the same resonance to really experience them. And I see Mark has his hand up.
You've said some marvelous things here, and I'm kind of connecting dots, and I have a question. With the combination of both free will and knowing thyself, if we realize our habits have created these affinities, does that also mean that not necessarily can we stop these habits and therefore affinities, but we can replace them with more positive?
Right. I mean, isn't that what transformation is all about? Inner transformation?
Like I said, I'm connecting dots.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're making a statement. I thought you were asking a
Yeah,
question.
no, I'm kind of on the fly here.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah, good connection, because that's exactly what inner transformation is all about. It is the transformation of something to something else. So it's not like a whole new thing descends upon me. It is a transformation of one vibration to another. And we have, through use of our will, which way are we going? Up or down, so to speak? I mean, it's not really linear like that, but just to look at it. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to read you guys this story. And this, because, okay, we're talking allegory, story, these fables, selling your soul to Satan in exchange for favors. And when you go online, you can find so many of them. But I wanted to share this one because supposedly this was the first person ever to make a deal with the devil. All right, so this is the story about Theophilus of Adana. He's also known as Saint Theophilus the Repentant. So he actually has a feast day on February 4th, okay? Here's his story. So he was a 6th century archdeacon, and he was said to be the first person to ever make a deal with the devil. So this story became, so he was in the 6th century, all right? But this story became very popular in the 13th century. So hold that in your mind, okay? So Theophilus was the archdeacon of the Church of Adana, and this is in Cilicia. I'm thinking it's someplace in Italy. Or maybe, I'm not sure where Adana is. But come to think of it, we read about this in our Messengers book, this Cilicia. Anyhow, I'm sorry to digress here. So this Theophilus, he was unanimously elected for the position of bishop, but he turned it down out of humility. Well, the man who became the bishop, since Theophilus turned it down, took away Theophilus's position as archdeacon. And he did this because there were these unfounded rumors about Theophilus and this, so it was malicious. So now Theophilus, regretting his decision. Okay, so here's kind of a point for us to hone in on. He's regretting his decision. And what do we know about regret? Regret only, it serves a good purpose if it leads us to repentance. If not, we stand the risk of falling into guilt or anger. Okay, so he's having regret, and what does he do? He seeks out a magician. So Theophilus, because he wants to contact the devil, so he goes to a magician to contact the devil, and he signs a contract renouncing Christ and the Virgin Mary in exchange for the title of bishop. Okay. Well, so we can see here already. So what does he do? He goes to a magician. He doesn't turn to God. We already see number one here. He rebels against God. And it's interesting because not only is that the first commandment, but it's also what Jesus told us, is that we don't need an intermediary. We don't need a magician. We can talk directly with God, and that's why Jesus gave us the Our Father. Okay, so we can see this feeling of regret was a little bit of a pivot point. So later he fears for his soul. This is Theophilus. So he prays to the Virgin Mary for forgiveness. He does fasting, and so we can see he is overriding kind of that pact, right, that he made with the devil through that magician, by he's now turning to the Virgin Mary. Okay, and so he's asking her to intercede with God, and she grants him absolution. She says, okay, you're freed, you're freed from this contract. However, the devil was unwilling to relinquish Theophilus from the deal. And 3 days later, Theophilus wakes up and he finds the contract on his chest. Okay, so this is where the spirits are reminding us, this is an allegory. It's about symbolism. It isn't real. So he doesn't really find a contract on his chest. What is he finding? His conscience, right? So very interesting. They call it a nightly review for a good reason, right? The guy goes to bed. In the night, we are helped by the good spirits to be readjusted. In the morning, it's on his conscience. So, and this is an interesting story, because it tells us we could go to other people. We can go to friends and family and say something that's going on and hear them tell us like, oh, you're okay. And you didn't mean that. And it'll be okay. And we can kind of feel better. But what's in our conscience is what we really have to face. And this is exactly what Theophilus faced. So what does he do then? Well, he takes the contract and he goes to the bishop and he confesses the whole thing. He tells the whole truth. And so the bishop burns the document, and Theophilus dies out of sheer joy to be free from the burden of the contract. So this is an allegory. So, and he's able to atone in the same lifetime. He faces the consequences, but he's able to atone and work through it. So, what can we say about this story? There's a lot for us to learn through it. It does provide a teaching and morality, and there's a lot of symbolism in it. And one of the first things, remember I said, keep in your mind about it was in the 13th century. Why? What was going on in the 13th century? The Inquisition. Isn't this a beautiful story to create fear and, to be able to control people with? Because there is some question if the story is even true. Some people say there's no authenticity to it. So, but we certainly can see, we can learn from it, and we can understand, all of us, I think, can say, oh, have found ourselves in a certain position very similar. And how did we handle it? Maybe not so well. Maybe we did better than Theophilus. There's many things in here. There's forgiveness, there's transformation. There's also the effort on our part to change. It was up to Theophilus. He couldn't just have like the absolution from the Virgin Mary. He had to actually carry out and put forth effort. Also, he sought, we can seek assistance from the good spirits and the power of repentance. So there's a lot to this story that we can gain from. And one of the most important things the spirits add about this question and in their answer is that no soul is condemned to suffer forever. So, no matter what we can do, we need to hear that over and over. We can't afford to go down that rabbit hole of I'm no good, I won't make it, because where does that lead us? To despair and despondency. And we open the door for suicidal ideation and, and then we want to quit life. So it's really important for us to know this inside of our fiber, that no one is condemned to suffer forever. That assistance of the good spirits and sincere desire. And what is that sincere desire? That is our will. So we can change our mindset, we can open our mind, and we can ask for help. So if anybody has comments, just speak out, because I can't see people raising their hands. Okay.
Oh, I was going to say something. It reminded me too, like in the Bible, since we're going into this kind of area, true, not true. I mean, the first pact you can say would be between Eve and the serpent, right? Selling the knowledge. And we see that in Spiritism, this is kind of like a choice, which I think that's where we're heading to. While yes, the pact, it's a no, at the end of the day is that choice, like you say, that consciousness. We also see it with maybe even Judas, who kind of sold Jesus, right? And for that one, we do have, I believe, knowledge that that pact was sort of broken. Jesus, is where he is, but relating to Judas, I mean, he's been forgiven and he's in a different place, right? He has to amend all of that. So, while yes, there are certain contracts that you could make, I guess, in these stories, since you're going by this, we already have examples of how it comes down to choices and they're not forever. And I think the most beautiful thing is the redemption. Like, you don't have to stay stuck, because in these stories we see how they're surrounded by the lower vibrations. So even now looking at this, like if we find ourselves relating this to people, where is our vibration, I guess, when we're making pacts? I mean, I'm sure in the past a lot of love stories come to mind, right? And you make these forever pacts and all these, but they're not forever. And maybe we find ourselves today maybe with someone in our current lives, and we can go back to this, to have the Bible, to see even these harder contracts with Satan, and the most evil can be eliminated, so we can, by our conscience, by our choice. Just wanted to add that because it's beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Nora. Yeah, that's exactly what they're telling us, and they keep repeating it in this section, is that, the importance of our free will, that we do have choice, and that we can't see this as like an external thing, but to own up responsibility for what we're doing. So it's interesting because in the it's one of the Emmanuel books, where one of the women seeks out a sorcerer or a magician to help her. She, has a plan in her mind, and she wants to do this plan. And even the magician, I'm just going to call him that word, tells her, you shouldn't do it, because this is going to be the end result, that, you're going to die by the sword or whatever. And she continues. So, it just goes to show it's not the magician, it's what's inside of us. Okay, so we go on to our next question. And so now, can ignorant people, with the aid of lower order spirits to whom they are devoted, cause harm to their neighbor? Can they supersede the natural law, right? Is basically what they're asking us. Can ignorant people do this? And now we should all write in the chat, and we should all be together when we answer this. You seeing anything, Mark?
Waiting.
Can ignorant people with the aid of lower order spirits to whom they are devoted cause harm to their neighbor? So with a lower order spirits, can we cause harm to our neighbor? Can we supersede that natural law? And everybody should have said no, because God would not permit it. That's how they answer. So it comes back to that thing that God has allowed it. And so it's always good for us to say, for what good reason is this happening to me? When it seems like something really bad or unfortunate, it's always good to ask that question. Yes, Mark.
Well, Charles and I both answered yes. And we both have an interesting reference to those that are in power.
Okay. Well, I would like to say something is that
Let
remember,
me just say,
okay,
Charles, I'm going to give you the thing. As in, it's painful to admit I voted for him. It's painful to admit I voted for him. Go ahead, Charles.
yeah, we live in a universe of influences, of energy. Everything is connected, correct? So if we live on a level like the planet Earth, the level of vibration that we are in, we are very susceptible for this kind of conscious choice of influences. And influences, the way it works is not just directly, but it can be also indirectly. Like I can be surrounded by a bunch of friends, good people, okay, that are themselves influenced by others. And that pressure will guide me in one direction. For example, we're talking about our leader today that just launched a huge attack on humanity a couple of days ago. And we see that it's evident of the level of influence that he's under. He's beyond subjugation. He's fascinated, which is the worst kind of control. Once you are fascinated, you really believe on all the BS that you have constructed. So he's doing what he's doing because he's surrounded by people, lower level ones, that are inducing him to create this havoc around us, and that is affecting the entire planet. So I think we need to really expand our understanding of how these forces operate so we can have a better perspective on what's happening in my personal life and each one of us personal life, but overall what's going on.
Thank you. I think you both bring up a good point about responsibility. And but I'm not going to override the higher spirits here. And I'm just going to say, then perhaps God has allowed this. So let us ask, for what good reason? For what good reason? And I don't have the answers, Charles, but what you explained, I don't deny. I understand. I could follow your reasoning perfectly.
Yeah.
I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you allowed me to interrupt just a little bit, because we have to analyze about the law of attraction and the law of our evolution, our lessons. What harm that we have done to others will come back to us. What good that we have done to others will come back to us. So God does not allow it as a God, as a good father. So if you do not owe anything back to you, bad or good, so that what God will not permit. If something come back to you, is a lesson of your evolution that you asked for. the community asked for, the humanity asked for. We cannot forget about that. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a good point. It's a valid point. It's another possibility. Let us open our minds. And, you know, none of us here is going to say that this is a good thing. We're not going to say what has happened in the world is a good thing. There's a lot of bad things that happen in the world. But, you know, here I'm presenting this information, okay? I've been asked to, so I'm just, see how it ties up with today's world, right? Okay, so occult power. So Google search, mysterious forces and knowledge believed to exist beyond ordinary understanding. It's the supernatural, we understand that word. But then in the spirit books, the spirits tell us, no, these are natural events. They're just poorly observed and poorly understood. So let us put that together. In order to understand something, we need to observe it. And it doesn't mean we just look at it. Observation is really allowing oneself to not only, you know, see the object, but to let the object see you, so to speak, or receive back. So this idea that, and we all know this, right? If we study anything about Genesis or any of the other codification books, that just because we don't understand something, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist or it's not real. So then a talisman, because these are some of the other parts of these questions, the occult power, the talisman, and the sorcerer. So a talisman is an object believed to contain occult powers or forces. And we all know this. People will hold up the cross and do the exorcism, you know, or they'll carry around some charm that keeps, or crystal that keeps evil spirits away. And so the spirits respond by saying spirits are attracted by thought, not material objects. And talisman is only a sign that directs the thought. So this is important. So it's what's the intention of that person holding the cross or whatever, committing, what is the forces connected with that object? All right. And then a sorcerer. We can understand this as a practitioner of occult powers, forces. They may use a talisman. They may use objects in their ceremonies, their practices. But the spirits tell us, hold on a minute. These are persons who may possess certain faculties, such as magnetic power or second sight. So it doesn't mean that there's some supernatural being or, you know, they have supernatural powers. No, they have some faculties about them. And just like we all have faculties, some are more developed, some are more sensitive in other people than others. They are not endowed with supernatural power, and they may also be a fraud, right? So someone can be putting on for entertainment and know how to work lights or whatever and make things illusions. So Ken, I see your hand up.
I'm seeing another way of looking at your question. I think there's two questions in the question.
Are you talking about question number 551?
I am.
Okay.
So the first part of the question to me is, can ignorant people cause harm to their neighbors? And that's an easy yes to me.
Yes.
That's an easy yes. The second part, with the aid of low order spirits. Now that's where I think it gets complicated, because it seems that the low order spirits are not to be able to have that kind of power over us. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why I think there's a yes and no in this. When I was trying to answer it, I was doing mine based upon what you said before. I was saying no, but I'm seeing a yes. I'm like Mark and Charles on this. I can see where a yes can come about, because we have evidence of ignorant people doing bad things, but we don't know for sure that it's the low order spirit that's caused them to do it. And I think that's where this gets.
Well, thank you. And you're right. Everything you said was really right. When we look at this question, there can be a yes and no. But I put in parentheses, supersede natural law. Okay. Because it's true. Can ignorant people, yeah, they can do this. I can hook up with a low order spirit. I'm allowed to do that. And I can send all kinds of mental energy, negative energies, and say, certain words, and, pray for badness to come to that person. Yes, people can do this. We have free will. Now, but can we, ensure that's going to happen? That what we say is going to happen is going to happen? Are we going to be able to supersede natural law, divine law? And the answer again is going to be no, and just what the Spirit said, because God would not permit it. So it's coming back to, do you believe in a God or not? And what does that mean to you? And it's again what Tanya was saying about the divine law, cause and effect, and nothing happens by a chance. Let us remember this. So, we can say one of the possibilities is expiation, or, this cause and effect type thing. What you do kind of comes back to you, so to speak, although that's not Spiritism. But for our own growth, for us to grow, sometimes we can say, not we as a person, or we as a community, we as a country, we ask for these trials. We kind of sign up for them because they're the thing that helps us grow. So we have to be careful and not just read some of these questions too literal, but also to bring in our previous Spiritism that we understand, to bring those in with these questions. And right away, to me, we can't override divine law. We cannot override it. And no ignorant spirit, no matter how, high up in the hierarchy they are of evil spirits, they can't do it either. So, but thank you, Ken. I think we're all kind of finding these answers today. And again, there's no mistake. I really, in studying these questions, I was like, why am I studying these questions? And then who knew that today was going to be this big attack, right? So anyway, let's go on. So I just want to say this talisman. The spirits are attracted by thought. And let us also remember physical effect mediumship, right? That ability to bend the spoon. This is not that the spoon is so, endorsed with supernatural powers, but a spirit's effect on the spoon. It's like knowing how to, with their will, use the fluids that we're all living in, the invisible fluids. All right, so I just wanted to point, these are something just to think about, what is an occult power? Because when I heard sorcerer, I always thought, oh, it's a fake. It's someone who's pretending. It's someone who's like a witch, but then the spirits remind me, like, no, these are people who most likely have faculty. Now, what are they choosing to do with it? Because we have free will. I can do charitable and good things and help people, or I can do things for money. I can sell, like, these, whatever, these faculties I claim to have. I can sell them. I can, say that, oh, I'll help you cast spells on your neighbor or whatever. So they can also be a fraud. But again, I really feel like this chapter, these questions are inviting us to really discern. Okay. So what is to be thought of the belief that certain individuals, so we're talking sorcerers, can cast spells, which are casting spells is also this occult power. And here's what the spirits, how they answered this. Some people possess a very strong magnetic power. But again, it's free will. How are they going to use it, good or bad, which will dictate the type of spirits they will attract. They give us a warning. There is also this fake magical power that exists in the imagination of superstitious people who are ignorant of the true laws of nature. So throughout these questions, they kept referring to this word credulity, credulity. And what this is talking about is people who are naive or really eager to believe, right? Oh, I saw a flashing thing in the sky. It's a UFO. You know what I mean? They want to believe it's a UFO. So the spirits are giving us a heads up. Like, yes, you can have people doing these things because they have faculty. It's not because they're supernatural. They're still a spirit with a human body, but they have more of a sensitivity in a certain area. And this is why we study mediumship, so we understand better these type of faculties. So can ignorant, wait a minute. Oh, what may be the effect, the consequences, right? When we hear the word effect, we're talking consequences of formulas and practices. Again, in this study, in this presentation, practices are going to be referring to the occult power with which certain persons, again, we're going to use sorcerers, claim to control the wills of spirits. So what may be the effect of formulas and practices with which certain persons claim to control the wills of spirits? And this is how they answer. All formulas are charlatanism. So that's, made up, make believe, illusionary. They're not real, true, because they say no sacramental word, no Kabbalistic, which is mysterious, sign, no talisman has power over spirits. Spirits are attracted by thoughts, not by material objects. Those of goodwill will be made to look ridiculous. So I'm a sorcerer or whatever, but I have goodwill. I really want to help people. They're saying, by listening to these spirits that are telling them to, wave their arms or say certain words, they're just making them look ridiculous. But they're saying those people who are of ill will, who are just trying to scam people, they say they're rogues and they will face consequences. So haven't certain spirits sometimes dictated Kabbalistic mystical formulas? And the spirits say yes. But, there are spirits who will prescribe bizarre words, certain acts or signs that incarnates perform, and we say we're casting a spell. We have this special power, we're casting a spell. But they're saying that we should understand that these are mocking spirits, and they're usually abusing us, our credulity. There's that word again. Our naiveness, we're too eager to believe. I want to believe I can heal my friend. So, but that's being naive. Yes, we can heal each other, but the idea that just because I want something, and I can want it so eagerly, but I'm immature about it. I haven't studied it. I haven't, practiced. I haven't spent time, but I just want it. And so I just, out of my pure naiveness, I think that it can happen. And then, it's opposed to what Kardec was really teaching us, because Kardec was really teaching us that unshakable faith is based on reason. It's not based on superstitious stories. It's not based on, just one person's, belief system. Just, I believe this, so this is how it is. Okay. Oh, Ken.
So it's this statement, those of goodwill were made to look ridiculous. I can't help going to the next level. Those of ill will may not look ridiculous.
Well, I guess you could say that. I mean, they're just saying like that when we do this, that this is kind of their impression about it. That so you can be really of goodwill, but it's the spirits are kind of these mocking spirits are abusing your naiveness. Those of ill will. So they're going to probably look the same in terms of if you're talking physical appearance, but what's going to be looked at is their intentions, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's their point. And I think it's a point well taken, because sometimes we do things, right, mostly because we're ignorant, not because we're so malicious. And I think it's good that they're bringing this out, that people who do this type of casting spells and waving their hands and stuff, it doesn't mean that they are in and of themselves malicious people. But we could say they're probably more ignorant, and this is what the spirits are bringing out. So we can all have our own opinion about it, but this is how they responded to Kardec.
Well,
So
it just seems like more people could be drawn in for those who do ill will, because they don't look so ridiculous. Even though we know ultimately they'll pay consequences, yes, but they may not look so ridiculous. So it just means to me that people could be drawn in thinking, oh, well, maybe they got something here.
Okay, so I guess I understand, and maybe, I don't know if you have the book, you might want to read it,
Yes.
your answer, because I brought this out and I'm just kind of highlighting.
Yes.
So I just brought it out that, okay, so people using this this is what they did say that in there, how they're made to look is, because they have goodwill, so they have good intention. It's not like it's a bad thing that they're
Right.
doing. It comes back to the intention. So like I said, they may both physically look the same. They may even have the same wording. Their spell casting may use the same words. They may say the same words. They may do, and they're both going to appear that way. But this person with the goodwill, they're having a good intention, where the one with the ill will is just, right, they're scamming somebody,
Right.
but they may physically still look the same.
Okay.
So I think you're honing in on some aspect of words that I used here.
Yeah. First of all, I'm not challenging anything. I'm just trying to see how people can get sucked into something thinking that, well, this person must have something good going on, because the other person looked ridiculous, talking about they're waving their hands and saying they're going to be healed and they're not healed. And then the other person, somehow their scheme works longer. It's gonna...
Yeah, no, I don't think that was their point. I don't think they mean that the person with good intention is going to physically look ridiculous and the one with ill will won't look ridiculous. I don't think that's what they're pointing out. They're just saying that, okay, they have goodwill, it's honorable. However, these spirits are abusing them because they're making them look stupid. And this is why we need to study mediumship and studying spiritism to better understand the human condition, to better understand these different forces that are at play. I don't know if that's helpful for what you had to share.
Oh, yes, it is.
You're not wrong either, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think it's a matter of words here.
Yeah. I'm just asking.
Yeah, there was something else that they said in here that I thought was pretty interesting.
Teresa, may I say something?
You may. Yes, you may. Go ahead, Charles.
To the Ken's point, it's important for us to understand that what is the greatest power that is in the universe is their will. And their will can be guided one direction or various directions depending on their preparation or the level of knowledge of that person or that entity that is exercising that will. Divine will created the universe. Okay. However, we are spirits that we are moving towards evolution, towards the divine, because that's our goal. We wanted to get there. Might take forever, but we will get there. So the issue is that the title of the chapter of today's study is how the spirits influence our world. So I agree with Teresa. It's very important that we dig in, that so we can have a real better understanding of what we're talking about here, because that's we exposed to it at all times, because that's the level that planet Earth is. I think that's what I want to call the attention. So Ken, when you talk about evil will or good will, is about that. Is about how I am prepared to exercise my will in which direction. So we are free to do that.
Yeah. So, and also, thanks, Charles. That was very helpful. Thank you so much. This idea about those using the goodwill. Again, they bring up that word credulity. Credulity. And it's that naiveness, those of goodwill. They're not malicious. They, they're just being more naive than they are, thinking that if they say this certain thing that they're going to heal this person, or, make whatever happen, whatever, they're working at to make it happen, and the spirits are again just bringing this word credulity. So it's our naiveness, our too willing to believe in something. We're eager, we're enthusiastic, which is not bad, but they're saying mocking spirits will take advantage of that. Here, just say these words and do this, and and so this is what they're talking about. So it's not really about their physical appearance.
Yeah.
When we say made to look ridiculous, that's not really what it's focusing on. The idea is that these people are not coming, they're not malevolent. So I think this is really important for us to take home.
Yeah.
Because we can fall into these ideas of, good and bad. And it's not really that way. We can also have a lot of ignorance going on, lack of awareness.
Yeah, Teresa, I'm sorry, but the word credulity in Greek and Latin, that equals to believe. So I can believe on something and follow it. But if I have faith, that means that's the true understanding of things. I don't have to believe that, okay, the sky is blue, the sky is red to understand God. But faith is different than belief. So credulity is about that. So if I am educated to believe in some kind of teachings, however, that may not be the exactly type of faith, which is I know for sure.
Okay, so thank you, Charles. But I used the definition that I found for credulity, and it's a tendency to be too ready to believe that something is real or true. And if you look up a synonym, a word that has a similar meaning, naive comes up. Okay, so it's not just about believing, but it's a tendency to be too ready to believe that something is real or true. So we could also say like over optimistic, but it's lacking some wisdom or knowledge, education.
Yeah.
This is what can really help, push people to create stories and superstition.
Right.
So, but thank you for sharing.
Yeah, Kardec makes reference of about the what is the term? Blind faith.
Yes.
Faith is almost what you're talking about.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so let's go on because we're running out of time. So isn't it possible that those, so we're going to bring in sorcerers, who rightly or wrongly trust in what they call the virtue of a talisman may attract a spirit by such trust, since it is their thought that acts, whereas the talisman is only a sign that helps to direct the thought. So let's read this again. Isn't it possible that those who rightly or wrongly trust in what they call the virtue of a talisman? So we could say then this object has really good high spirit energy, really healing, good vibes, and then another object would be of a low order, something that's going to cause pain and destruction. So they're saying either it's good or bad. Attract a spirit by such trust, since it is the thought that acts. And so, whereas the talisman is only a sign that helps to direct the thought. So if I'm having a good thought and I'm using this cross because I believe Jesus Christ and all the healing power and all the, everything is behind it. So that we could say that this person, it's a good virtue. They're coming from a good place. It's goodwill. And what do the spirits say? They say, yes, this is true. But we should also bear in mind the purity of the intention and the level of sentiment determines the nature of the spirit it attracts. So someone with really goodwill is going to attract a high, more high order spirit. Someone with ill will is going to attract someone with lower vibrations. But they also go on to say that belief in a talisman implies a narrow and weak mind. So they're saying, it's probably not someone who's highly educated in the sense of, of spiritism, understanding the world and humankind and spirits, whether incarnate or discarnate. So they say what happens when we have this kind of mindset that objects are so powerful, they're saying, this is a little narrow mind, it's a weak mind, and what it opens the door for access to imperfect and mocking spirits. And they say also, oftentimes when people are using talisman in this mindset, their objective is probably more material than it is moral. So they're not putting, a lid on it, but they're just saying, again, asking us to use our discernment and kind of follow it through. So we don't walk out of this study today and say that anybody who thinks a object has special powers, they're a low order spirit. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to have a better understanding of how nature works, and that our thoughts are very powerful, and our intentions, and we have free will, and how are we using it. So we have to really go through the whole hierarchy or itinerary, however you want to phrase it. It looks like, Mark, do you have a question? No. Okay. But you're on mute. So if you're saying anything, we don't hear you.
I was just going to say, Tanya just made a comment. We're running out of time. You know
Okay.
that. And I had thought about this earlier, the word obsession. The talisman can definitely be an obsessive trigger to a person who sees it in a negative form, or a person who believes in it.
Yes. Yes. Good point. So again, they're asking us to think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 556, do certain individuals really possess the gift of healing by simple touch? What do you think? Magnetic power acts accompanied by purity of sentiments and ardent desire to do good. Elevated spirits come to their aid. So they're pretty much telling us, yes, it can happen. And here's how. Right? Because if you're malevolent, you're not going to be wanting to do good and to help and heal people. Another warning, though. Distrust stories of the gullible who are always ready to see a miracle in natural things, and distrust self-interested people who exploit, here's that word again, credulity for profit. So they're scamming people. They're taking advantage of people's imperfections, their weaknesses, their lack of knowledge. Okay. So there was this one section that was hooked on to my questions. It was blessings and curses. So, can blessings and curses attract good or evil to those at whom they are aimed? And the answer is, good and evil may be a momentary influence upon matter, so it requires God's permission. Neither good or evil can divert providence from justice. So I think that's pretty explanatory. So for example, this beautiful, very spiritual grandmother is praying for her grandson who's a big troublemaker, steals, robs, lies, cheats, does awful things to people. Just because the good grandmother is praying does not mean that this grandson is going to acquire this merit. However, it doesn't mean we shouldn't pray, because we do know prayer does good things. It surrounds and saturates the person, waiting for their mindset, and then, they can receive all these blessings of these prayers. But this is what they're pointing out. And I think what we should hone in, that we cannot divert providence from justice. Okay, so justice is always served. All right. And then I just want to end with this story that comes out of Jesus in the Home, the Divine Talisman. And if anybody's ever read this story, it's an excellent story. If you haven't, please read it. And so here's the benefits of the Divine Talisman, really short. Jesus is gathered in the home of Peter, where he talks more intimately with his apostles. He doesn't only speak in parables. And we know not only his apostles are there, but also his disciples. These are followers of Jesus. They weren't actually apostles, though. So Isabel, who is the mother of John and James, asked the question, like, Lord, is there a divine talisman that will help us, to get through life, to so we can have a chance of making it to heaven? And Jesus says, yes, there is a divine talisman. It can help us acquire the blessings of God, discover love around us, unveil understanding. The revelations about art and science can be revealed to us. There's the possibility of communing with divine fonts of life. There's blessings of meditating on holy things, reestablishing relationships, discloses to the mind passages of light, spreads happiness, offers opportunities for worldwide peace, reveals wholesome work, enhances our lives, facilitates access to great masters, enables intuitive communication. And so they're like, what is it? We want this, right? Who doesn't want this? And then, of course, we learn that Jesus says, every rise and every fall, every victory and every defeat all begin with the collaboration of the day. So our time is the divine talisman we should avail ourselves of. And we know time is an illusion, so to speak. It doesn't really exist, but it is, what are we doing with our time? And if we use it with goodwill, good intention, we're going to reap the benefits. So this is the end of my, and also I just want to point out, collaboration comes from the word labor. So it requires our effort. It's not just spoon-fed to us.